Raising GSH resolve symptoms of anxiety and depression in late stage Parkinson patients?
I can't find a specific study uh, looking at glutathione and depression and anxiety in late Parkinson's, but I would assume that it would because one, raising glutathione in late Parkinson's has shown to improve Parkinson's symptoms. And of course, depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline is a late Parkinson's syndrome. And I can also allude to the research looking at glutathione in helping with anxiety and depression in regular people, of course, where we have shown benefit. So putting those two groups of studies, although there's no specific study looking at that, one would have to assume that it would help.
Good answer.
I have one here. Okay, so my husband has DX of Parkinson's due to vascular cause, a temporary microinfraction. The doctor tells us there is no way to reverse it. Immunocal has helped him a lot. However, the doctor says Immunocal can decrease levodopa function. Is that correct? Levodopa function?
Yes.
So,
So
that's
the
a
doc,
question, but
yeah, the doctor is act. I don't usually like criticizing doctors, but this doctor has made a false assumption. I believe he said that Immunical decreases levodopa, which is the name of uh, a dopamine medication. It does not decrease it. It improves dopamine function. It allows for the longer continued use of dopamine drugs, which have a tendency of losing their effect after time. So if that's what the doctor wrote, he needs to look that up, and it's very easy to find on PubMed.
Dosage for Parkinson's.
I would definitely start with 2 pouches a day. See how the person responds. If there's a good response after a couple of weeks, then 2 pouches is fine. You may have to go on to 3 or 4 pouches a day. But if you're not in a hurry, start with two and increase it gradually over a couple of weeks.
Crystal asks, could you mention again what causes Parkinson's? It seems you'd made a statement about heavy metals.
Parkinson's has a number of different causes, and heavy metal toxicity has been noted uh, to cause Parkinson's. Heavy metals, including iron. Um, I think we need to look at aluminum as well. Certainly neurotoxins like lead. So heavy metals tend to be quite toxic to neurological tissues and has been associated with the onset of Parkinson's. There are available these days ways to check your genes. And this all started off with um, a number of services for $100 or so, like trying to remember the name of the common one. Do you remember the name, Dylan? The one that everybody gets their genes tested on.
Ancestry.com.
And
oh,
yeah, so
You and me in 23 or whatever.
yeah, those tests. The tests are far more sophisticated now. And if you go online and you look up some services, they're only about, I don't know, somewhere between 75 and $200. Well, you will get a huge uh, amount of genetic information to see whether you are carrying any genes that are defective in really thousands of different diseases, including Parkinson's. So for a small investment, you can get genes looking at whether you are going to develop Parkinson's or whether you have a tendency to develop Parkinson's, whether you have glutathione gene abnormalities. And I believe that in the next 5 years, as short as 5 years, everybody will be getting this done. And within 10 years, um, barring any ethical questions, newborn babies will have their genes sequenced, uh, and they will know right off the bat what they need to do, what dietary changes they may need, what types of physical exercise they need, what kind of risks they have for certain diseases. Now, I say barring ethical changes, it may be a privacy issue as to whether this information might be released. For example, if you have somebody's genes on board and they have a strong risk for early death or cancer, they may not get a job, they may not get insurance. So it's a very touchy issue, but it is well within our scientific capability of determining these things, and it's well within your capacity to get these tests done and sent to you. And of course, these results will be private.
Okay. Doug, do you have any other question? I mean, I have some here, but
I do.
I want to.
My husband is undiagnosed, but does have soft Parkinson's, shuffling gait, memory loss. MRI is normal for age. He's been on 2 platinum packs per day for 7 months. How long should we expect to see changes?
I would have expected to see changes by now if that was a sufficient choice, a sufficient dose. So the other thing is, would he have been worse? Would he have declined in function had he not been taking those 2 immunocal pouches? And this is another question. So what I would do, I would try giving him 3 pouches and see what happens. But I would not just throw up my hands and say this isn't working and stop the immunocal, because he may decline after that. At least he seems to be stable in his Parkinson's for 7 months.
Does this also apply to Parkinson-like tremors? Not Parkinson's, but people that have tremors, you know?
Yeah, we would have to assume that it's well worth trying the immunocal, because there are several other entities that might cause tremors, and some of them will in fact respond to immunocal. Now, Doug, you say you know someone who has
Yeah.
benefit from this.
An anecdotal story. Yeah, it's a friend of mine's wife, and she shakes, and then on 1 it reduces it, on 2 it almost is gone, and on 3 it's virtually undetectable. And if she goes
Wow.
back to 2, she sees it again, and then if she runs out, she's good for like a day or 2, but then it starts to come back, so she has to take 3 packs a day, and that controls the tremors. And it's not Parkinson's. It's
Very
just,
interesting. Very interesting.
Okay.
is it possible to have too much glutathione?
This, I need to explain this one. Let me change the question. Is it possible to take too much immunocal? Because what immunocal does, it provides bioactive cysteine, which is the major precursor for glutathione production. And the answer is no, you can't have too much because it's the cell that makes glutathione. And after we reach a peak level of glutathione, the optimal level of glutathione, there's something called negative feedback inhibition that kicks in. So a cell can't make more than its optimal amount of glutathione. So you can't raise glutathione past a certain level. Now, if you were eating glutathione or you were injecting glutathione, then there's no limit to the amount of glutathione you have. So yes, you can have too much glutathione, but it's not your body's own glutathione. It's external glutathione. If you use Immunical, you're only raising your body's self-made glutathione, which has limitations. It will stop at its optimal level. But by using external glutathione, which, by the way, glutathione pills and intravenous glutathione, um, these are all 100% genetically modified substances. The way we get glutathione is either through the use of certain yeast, certain fungi, or certain bacteria. And what we do is we modify the genes of these fungi and bacteria so that these organisms produce glutathione. And then we harvest the glutathione from these bacteria and from these fungi. And this is where glutathione pills and intravenous glutathione comes from 100% genetically modified organisms. Now, I'm not going to make a comment on genetically modified organisms, but this is not natural.